Welcome to Saving Images and Video. There are a few ways that we can save images and video, but let's look at the fastest way first. We'll double click on our network editor and select our movie file in top. What we're going to do is we are just going to right click on this top, and right here we can see that we can save image. This is the fastest and easiest way to save an image. By default, you'll notice that the file name is the name of the operator, and you have a few different options for being able to change the file type. You have JPEG, TIFF, PMP, EXR, PNG, you name it. I'm going to go ahead and select PNG and click Save. Let's say we wanted to animate this top and we wanted to save the animation, save that movie. Well, what we could do is we could right click on our movie file in and add a transform. We are going to make a quick animation here of our banana, and what we're going to do is navigate to the rotate parameter. Let's write a simple expression, me.time.frame. What me.time.frame allows us to do is it animates this parameter for us, and it animates it locked to the timeline, to the time code inside of TouchDesigner. So I can go ahead and move this around, and we can see that we are not only changing the rotation, we see that expression changing up here for our rotate. Perfect. We have our rotating banana. Next, let's navigate to the top left-hand corner here, go to File, Export Movie. This export movie dialog is going to be the way that we export this animating banana. So let's first drag our transform top onto the top video parameter. Now we should see that our video is indeed playing here in our export movie. We also have the option to drag a chop audio. If we did have audio, I'm going to go ahead and skip that for now. We also have the resolution that comes from our top, and then the next thing we have is the movie FPS. I'm going to go ahead and change that to 60 frames per second because I want it to match my project, which is set to 60 frames per second. Next up here, we have our codecs. For the codecs, you may see a different list than mine. By default, I'm going to leave it to photo, motion, JPEG. Just note that some of these codecs only work if you have NVIDIA hardware. Great. I am going to skip the audio settings and I'm going to jump to timeline. I want this video to play for the duration of my timeline, which is 600. So I'm going to go ahead and leave the end frame to 600, keep the start frame to 1. Next up here is that we have the ability to burn time code. So we have movie time code, and then in the top right, we have our timeline time code. I'm going to leave the timeline time code and then navigate to output, and I'm going to change the file name. I'm going to name this banana, and it will be a MOV. Perfect. If you wanted to leave the default, it will actually add an increment for you so that you can auto increment the movies that you're saving out. I'm going to go ahead and click save, and what it'll do is it will jump to the beginning of the timeline, turn off the real-time flag, give you a note that you're exporting, and run all the way to the end. Once it runs all the way to the end, we will be done here, and it will let you know that your movie export has finished. Perfect. Let's say you wanted to export a movie and you wanted to add audio. Well, let's double-click on our network here, add a movie file in, and let's go to the file parameter and let's navigate to our map. Here we can actually see our two files that we've saved, but let's go to map. So map is the folder where you have all those default files. If you're ever lost and you can't find it, you can navigate to program files if you're on Windows, or the applications folder if you're on a Mac, and then you can navigate to the samples map folder. Let's set that count there. And then the next thing we're going to do is we want to get that audio. Let's double click on our network, navigate to the chop page, and let's go to the audio movie chop. This will play the audio of a movie file. And so let's place that in our network. We're going to drag our movie file in onto our chop, and now we should see all of these channels moving, so we got our audio. Perfect. Now we have our movie file in. Let's right click on our movie file in and select the movie file out. You'll notice that that's empty. That's okay. What we want to do is let's drag our movie file first onto our movie file out, and then we have our audio chop. So our audio movie gets dragged onto our movie file out. Perfect. We have a few other options. We could change the type. It could be an image sequence or stop motion. I'm going to set that to a movie. I'm going to leave the video codec alone. I'm going to change the file name. You also have the ability to keep this if you want to increment. I'm going to call this count. And the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to leave these audio codec settings, change my frame rate to 60, and before I hit record, the most important thing is I have to turn real time off. If I don't turn real time off, then I will potentially see some stuttering or audio popping in my video. So gonna hit record, and here we go. We are recording. The interesting thing about the movie file out is that it is not locked to timeline. So this is great for any use case where you want to record an instance of a sketch that you're doing, but you don't want it locked to timeline. And then we can turn that off, and then you should see that video saved to wherever you saved it. I saved it to my desktop, and now I have that count movie. So that is saving images and video.